Alrighty, good afternoon. My name is William White. I am the technical manager for ARDEX Tile and Stone. Joining me today, I have one of our technical field reps out of Stockton, California, and then I have our technical field supervisor. Did I get it right? Sometimes I mess that up, I'm sorry. Mr. Daniel Grant, and he happens to be Texas. So today, we're talking uh-oh. Are we good? There we go. Volume came back. Today we're going to be talking about ARDEX grouting systems. So, grout is one of those things that it's a very small part of the job, but it's where almost all of our complaints come from, right? So we're going to show you some products and some tricks to make grouting easier and better. So we're going to start out with ARDEX FL Grout. ARDEX FL Grout is a flowable, cement-based, high-performance grout. When we mix up ARDEX FL Grout, we have a water range. It's for a 10-pound box of water. It's 28 to 32 ounces of water. So Terry's just using a water bottle. If it's good enough to drink, it's good enough to mix your grout with, right? It's a good rule of thumb. Yep. There we go. So he's put his, now, did you do the powder first, right? I did. Yeah. Are we able to show the overhead camera? There we go. So if you swirl that around, you can kind of show them what that does. If you look to the screens here, notice that the water is just sitting on top of that grout. Well, what happens is our grout is hydrophobic. Hydrophobic means scared of water, meaning it doesn't so it doesn't want to absorb water, meaning that it, that's going to naturally repel stains. Thus, when we mix it, we have to mix it for a full 2 minutes. We have to force the water in there, right? Because it's not naturally wanting to mix up. Do you guys do grouting? What kind of consistency do you normally look for in your grout? So he says a little bit of firmness, depending on if it's or wall, and so a lot of times I get for a like a creamy peanut butter. Yeah, you don't want it soupy. You don't want it soupy, right? Well, I get creamy peanut butter or toothpaste typically. So after we've mixed our F out, you're going to be surprised by the consistency. Now we have a water range, right? So we talked about 28 to 32 ounces of water. So we have a range. At the high side of the range, it's going to be very fluid for floors. At the low side, 28 ounces for a 10-pound box, it's going to be a little bit thicker for walls. So notice his mix out. It's a pourable, almost like a pancake or right? What that does for us is it actually allows us to grout much easier. He's not having to force it down into those grout joints. Suddenly grouting got a whole lot easier. That FL, flowable, fluid grout, is actually going to go into the grout joints and actually support those edges of the tile, making it much, much easier, faster. I know guys that do like so forth and spaces. You can grout like 5,000 square foot with a 2 crew in a single go. You can push it in. Yeah, the microphone is a little finicky. So the FL is a rapid setting grout. We can go in joints from a 16th inch all the way up to a 1/2 inch. Now Terry cleaned off part of it perfect. The other part is what I would leave if I was grouting, kind of nice and messy, because I'm, a beginner. We're going to leave that there for a little bit, aren't we, Terry?
Yep.
All righty. Terry's going to leave that there. What we've done is, you notice this one sitting over here. This has been sitting the entire time while the last two presenters did their presentations as well. That's been sitting for a little bit. You say a good 45 minutes, Terry?
It's been probably about 40 minutes.
40 minutes right now. Boy, I tell you, if I walked onto a job and I saw that, I'd be a little nervous. Right? So notice his sponge. Not a lot of water here, but watch his cleanup. He's just going to moisten that surface, get it wet a little bit. Now he'll start to scrub. He's not putting any pressure on that at all. Just his circular motion is breaking that grout down. Nice. Now remember, that sat there. That was hard on the surface. So he does a dirty wash across the entire surface. Notice he's not going back and forth to his bucket, rinsing out, introducing a lot of water. That's still from his same initial rinse. Now he'll rinse his sponge out. There we go. And do his final wipe. Look at that. I'm sure you guys can see that on the overhead. Just comes off nice and clean. So FL grout is a 118.7 grout. It is a high performance cement-based grout. Does not require sealing. So, in most cases, don't have to seal it. If you're doing natural stone, you're going to be sealing the stone anyway. It'll accept a sealer, just doesn't require it. Terry, are you going to leave a little bit of that so the haze dries on there and we can buff it off at the end?
Will do.
Let's go ahead and move on to the DG1. So DG1, we have a fan in the audience. So DG1. DG1 is a single component ready to use grout. So what makes this a little bit different, we can go from black grout. No gloves, black grout, rubs it on his hands. If you look here, it's on the cat and dog at home. Like, it's just a mess. Black grout, and his hands are spotless, right? So how does that happen? Well, we actually take and bake the color of each individual grain of sand. So there's no pigment in this product. What that does for us allows us to have color consistency. You can use what you want. There you go. So all Daniel has to do is scoop it out of the bucket and immediately start smearing. Now, what I like about DG1 is it's already mixed. It's ready to go. I don't have to have any water. I don't have to have any mixing. I'm not going to have any inconsistency depending if different people are grouting on different days. And look at how easy that is.
I'm going to give you this. Give me 2 seconds to turn it up.
Thank you. All righty. How we doing with that? That sounds a little bit better. Cure time. So on the DG1, we're going to be able to walk like light foot traffic, 6 hours or so. If we're talking full stain resistance, we actually need a good 24 hours to get our stain resistance, allow it to firm up. So a lot of the single components are like that because they need to air dry. So I think the question is, how long can you leave it? Till you wipe it. Okay, got it. Thank you. So his question is, how soon should you wait before you wash it, right? So with a lot of the single components, you have to be spreading and washing almost like side by side, right? With DG1, we recommend to do up to about 30 square feet before you begin your washing process. So depending on the tile, depending on your grout joints, that's typically within 10 minutes. and then you introduce too much water to it, and then it starts to sag. So the really interesting thing is with DG1, like we could actually tip this board up. It won't sag out of the joints, even as you're washing it immediately. It's not going to wash out of the joints. But that's where he dripped water from just rinsing his hands. Yeah, so even if he were to wash that vertical, we wouldn't have an issue. Yeah. So DG1 is actually available in 26 colors. So this is one of our newer products. We started with the most popular colors first, and then have been working backwards, adding colors as we go. So we just added some more colors. I think we're up to 26, right? Yeah. So you're ready for wash? Yeah? Okay. He wants to wait a little bit. Terry, do you want to or Daniel, do you want to let it set? We can go to silicone next. All right, we're going to go to silicone next. So we're actually going to let that set for just a moment. More working time, a little more forgiveness, a little fudge factor in there. You touch it and it oozes, yeah. And then you're scrubbing like crazy and throwing water on it, yeah. Alrighty. So ARDEX does make an epoxy grout as well. It is a true 100% solids epoxy grout. If you swing by our booth, we're the big pink banners over there. Swing by and we can talk about that as well. So Terry's gonna use some silicone here. Pause for a sec. How many people like silicone? How many people like one? Not acrylic, not caulking, but 100% silicone. I gotta. He's giving me the funniest face right now. He's like, "Are you crazy? Why? Why don't you guys like silicone?" It's so hard to work with. Thank you. It's so hard to. Is it? Is it? Little tools. Well, Terry's going to show us some tricks here to show us how silicone can be really easy. Now, according to TCNA handbook EJ171, only 100% silicone should be used for expansion joints, movement joints, and changes of plane. So he's just running a couple joints as if these were expansion joints. I think you guys can see that on the overhead, or the guys up front can see it. So there are tools, right? So there are some caulking tools that make it easy, but what if you don't have one of those fancy caulking tools? Terry's got tricks. Now this spray comes from our friends right over here at Fila, Care and Maintenance Products. The silicone refinishing spray, this stuff's awesome. All he had to do is spray the surface, take the caulking tube, the back end of the tube, look at that, it scoops it up. It's a perfect joint every time. That's a quick, easy trick, right? Especially you imagine doing a large car dealership, something like that, where you have really long expansion joints, it's gonna just scoop it up so you don't have to keep wiping up. So here he's got a caulking tool. Nice. So silicone doesn't have to be difficult, right? Silicone doesn't have to be difficult. But those are easy joints. What about doing the change of plane? That's where it's a little harder, you would think. Now, of course, typically in an expansion joint, we want to have a proper backer rod. We want to make sure we only have 2 points of contact. But just for demonstration's sake, he's going to go ahead and caulk or silicone, apply his sealant on the change of plane. He'll go ahead and go up the wall as well. Nice. And then he's going to do the joint out. So notice he went back here. The key with doing silicone is to make sure that you get all of your joint filled with the first pass. Now there's a rule with silicone. One of the rules with silicone is don't get silicone where you, oh, Terry. Don't get silicone where you don't want silicone. But that's okay. Check this out. He can clean this up super easy. He's just going to take his caulking tool, spray it down with the Fila cleaner. Look at that. Nice and easy. So there you go. He doesn't even have to follow the rules of silicone anymore. So Terry's just using the caulking tool, sprayed it down, he sprays the cleaner on his tool as well as the surface and just strikes it off. Nicely done. Daniel, how's our DG1 grout looking? Are we getting close? All righty. There we go. So does that make using silicone a little bit easier? Or a whole lot easier? There's virtually no excuse not to do silicone. It's the right thing. The nice thing is, you got a question? Yeah, so his question is, do you have to use this spray? No, there's a lot of different ways to do silicone for striking or tooling the joint. He asked, could you put a little bit of dish Dawn soap in the water and then apply that to the surface? Yeah, that works. Sometimes if I'm doing like a white grout, like a brilliant white grout, I'm not real excited about putting blue Dawn dish soap into my water and then putting it on fresh white grout. You can also use denatured alcohol. I know a lot of guys that use denatured alcohol. When I was a contractor, it seemed like I could never keep it on my truck. I think my helpers might have been drinking it. I don't know. But, so there are options, yes. Dawn dish soap, a little bit of dish soap and water works well as well. Did you have a question? A comment? Yeah. During its curing process, yeah. Strong. So his point was that he has also heard that, Dawn dish soap, I've heard that too, is because it is a degreaser, right? Because it helps to cut the grease off the dishes, that can actually affect the curing properties of the silicone. So, and that's why I like about the sprays. The spray has been tested to not affect stone, to not affect the silicone, to not affect the curing process. Daniel, you ready to finish up? Take us home here? Nice. So, just like Terry was doing, he's not applying a lot of pressure. He's not applying a bunch of water. He's just a little circular motion, basically just taking grout off the surface of the tile. Doing a little touch up here. Rinse his sponge out, so he did a dirty wash across the whole thing, and now he just does a final drag across there. So notice how the color changed, right? This is black licorice. This is our darkest black grout. But yet right now it looks a little white and milky. That's just the acrylic floating to the surface. When it dries, that perfectly black color will come back. Yeah, another question. That's all good. I like the engagement. Oh, haze. He's talking about single component haze. I've dealt with that, especially on some really shiny tiles where that haze shows up, and they've got some cleaners and stuff that help with that. So, I did an interesting test with our grout when it first come out, and I actually applied black to a white body, brilliant white 4x4 tile, glossy. I left some on there. I did the worst grouting job of my life. I tried to make it terrible. I left grout chunks on the face. I did that on a Friday. I was able to come back on a Monday, right? Friday grout job, not the best. I was able to come back on a Monday with a white doodlebug pad and some warm water. Don't have to use any chemicals, anything like that. Even on the shiny glazed tile, wiped right off the surface. So I have not had any issues with haze with our DG1. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Any final questions? Alrighty. Well, if you guys have any questions, we're right over here. You can see our bright pink banners. We are booth 3231. Please swing by, say hi, come talk to us, and have a great day.